Welcome to Jersey Reads the Classics, an audiobook podcast delving into the finest works of our literary masters. Unfortunately, it's read by this woman.
What the hell? Who cares? Let's go on an adventure.
Bonjour, mon ami, and welcome back to Jersey Reads the Classics with your host, Rosie DeCandia. I spoke a little French in honor of the beret I'm wearing. Anyway, we are going to get right into the nitty-gritty with our book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And we don't do recaps here, as you all know, and I keep saying it, but we are going to go right into Chapter 7, A Mad Tea Party. There was a table set out under a tree in front of the house, and the March Hare and the Hatter were having tea at it. A dormouse was sitting between them, fast asleep, and the other two were using it as a cushion, resting their elbows on it and talking over its head. Very uncomfortable for the dormouse, thought Alice. Only, as it's asleep, I suppose it doesn't mind. The table was a large one, but the three were all crowded together at one corner of it. No room, they cried out when they saw Alice coming. There's plenty of room, said Alice indignantly, and she sat down in a large armchair at one end of the table. Have some wine, the March Hare said in an encouraging tone. Isn't that funny? You know, the caterpillar did not offer Alice the hookah, and I was thinking because she was a child, and then she now gets offered some wine. She's a kid, but you know what? It is Europe, right? And so I think at an age you can drink, which is very interesting because my parents are from Italy and I grew up in a very Italian household. So when I was a kid, I had to drink white wine, especially when we ate fish. My father is from southern Italy. Another fun fact about me. He's from southern Italy, Molfetta, right in the region of Puglia. And, you know, he loves fish. So I grew up on a lot of fish. So my mom would be like, have some wine. It cleans away the bacteria. Isn't that funny whenever we ate fish? My mom is from the region of Abruzzo. Anyway, moving forward. Alice looked all around the table, but there was nothing on it but tea. I don't see any wine, she remarked. There isn't any, said the March Hare. Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it, said Alice angrily. It wasn't very civil of you to sit down without being invited, said the March Hare. Oh, we're all getting just a little bit testy here, but I like it. It's kind of like a tennis match going back with a little bitchiness. They're a little catty. Ha, ha, ha. Sassy. Love this group already. All right. I didn't know it was your table, said Alice. It's laid for a great many more than three. Your hair wants cutting, said the Hatter. He had been looking at Alice for some time with great curiosity, and this was his first speech. You shouldn't make personal remarks, Alice said with some severity. It's very rude. The Hatter opened his eyes very wide on hearing this, but all he said was, Why is a raven like a writing desk? Come, we shall have some fun now, thought Alice. I'm glad they've begun asking riddles. I believe I can guess that, she added aloud. Do you mean that you think you can find out the answer to it? Said the March Hare. Exactly so, said Alice. Then you should say what you mean, the March Hare went on. I do, Alice hastily replied. At least, I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know. Not the same thing a bit, said the Hatter. You might just as well say that I see what I eat is the same as I eat what I see. You might just as well say, added the March Hare, that I like what I get is the same thing as I get what I like. You might just as well say, added the Dormouse, who seemed to be talking in his sleep, that I breathe when I sleep is the same thing as I sleep when I breathe. It is the same thing with you, said the Hatter. They're definitely a sassy group. I like it. It's feeling like being at home with my family during a holiday. The sarcasm and the jokes and the ripping on each other, that's part of the course. I think especially for Italians. You know, everybody thinks we are very emotional people. But in my house, it wasn't like my mom was hugging me and kissing me all day. I knew my mom loved me, but with us, it's like sarcasm and that little means that we care for you. It's just kind of the way we is. The kind of the way we are. Oh my God. Anyway. And here the conversation dropped, and the party sat silent for a minute while Alice thought over all she could remember about ravens and writing desks, which wasn't much. The Hatter was the first to break the silence. What day of the month is it? he said, turning to Alice. He had taken his watch out of his pocket and was looking at it uneasily, shaking it every now and then and holding it to his ear. Alice considered a little, and then she said, "The 4th. 2 days wrong," sighed the Hatter. "I told you butter wouldn't suit the works," he added, looking angrily at the March Hare. Butter? Where'd that come from? Ooh, I do love some bread and butter. "It was the best butter," the March Hare meekly replied. "Yes, but some crumbs must have got in as well," the Hatter grumbled. "You shouldn't have put it in with the bread knife." The March Hare took the watch and looked at it gloomily. Then he dipped it into his cup of tea and looked at it again, but he could think of nothing better to say than his first remark. "It was the best butter, you know." Alice had been looking over his shoulder with some curiosity. "What a funny watch," she remarked. "It tells the day of the month and doesn't tell what o'clock it is." "Why should it?" muttered the Hatter. "Does your watch tell what year it is?" "Of course not," Alice replied very readily. "But that's because it stays the same year for such a long time together." "Which is just the case with mine," said the Hatter. Alice felt dreadfully puzzled. The Hatter's remark seemed to have no meaning in it, and yet it was certainly English. "I don't quite understand," she said, as politely as she could. "The Dormouse is asleep again," said the Hatter, and he poured a little hot tea upon its nose. That wasn't very nice. Poor Dormouse. He's like a doormat. See what I did there? The Dormouse is also the doormat. But, I mean, does the Dormouse, this is the question, he keeps going back and forth in his sleep, and I don't know, but does he have narcolepsy? I'm kind of concerned about this Dormouse because, you know, I think it's grand that he's showing up to this party and everything, and he is partaking in the festivities when he can, but then he falls asleep, and it's just like he's not there. So does he have narcolepsy? And I don't know, is tea strong enough for him to drink? Because quite frankly, I think coffee would be a better alternative. It has more caffeine. But this could be black tea. I don't know if the English love black tea. I'm not really well versed with tea. I do as much little as caffeine as possible. But who doesn't mind a good cuppa, as the English say, a good cuppa. Anyway, where were we? Because, you know, I kind of forget things. Okay. Oh, yeah. We're going to repeat. "The Dormouse is asleep again," said the Hatter, and he poured a little hot tea upon its nose. The Dormouse shook its head impatiently and said, without opening its eyes, of course, just what I was going to remark myself." "Have you guessed the riddle yet?" the Hatter said, turning to Alice again. "No, I give it up," Alice replied. "What's the answer?" "I haven't the slightest idea," said the Hatter. "Nor I," said the March Hare. "Well, what the hell is that? You're going to ask me a riddle and you don't know the frickin' answer to it? I mean, how rude. Once again, I mean, listen, we knew they were rude from the get-go. But, I mean, rude. I don't like when people ask you riddles and they don't know the answers. Well, don't ask me things theoretically and stuff if you're not, or like, you know, you're not going to know them, or rhetorically, whatever that is. Or is that rhetorically means when they ask you a question, they're saying it out loud and they just don't really want you to answer back. Okay, yeah, that's right. Alice sighed wearily. "I think you might do something better with the time," she said, "than waste it asking riddles with no answers." "I'm going to agree with you on that, girl." "If you knew time as well as I do," said the Hatter, "you wouldn't talk about wasting it. It's him." "I don't know what you mean," said Alice. "Of course you don't," the Hatter said, tossing his head contemptuously. "I dare say you never even spoke to time." "Perhaps not," Alice cautiously replied, "but I know I have to beat time when I learn music." "Ah, that accounts for it," said the Hatter. "He won't stand beating. Now, if you only kept on good terms with him, he'd do almost anything you like with the clock. For instance, suppose it were 9 o'clock in the morning, just time to begin lessons. You'd only have to whisper a hint to time, and round goes the clock in a twinkling. 1:30, time for dinner." "I only wish it was," the March Hare said to itself in a whisper. "That would be grand, certainly," said Alice thoughtfully. "But then I shouldn't be hungry for it, you know." "Not at first, perhaps," said the Hatter. "But you could keep it to 1:30 as long as you liked." "Is that the way you manage?" Alice asked. The Hatter shook his head mournfully. "Not I," he replied. "We quarreled last March, just before he went mad, you know," pointing with his teaspoon at the March Hare. "It was at this great concert given by the Queen of Hearts, and I had to sing, 'Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder what you're at.' You know the song, perhaps." "Well, I've heard something like it," said Alice. "It goes on, you know," the Hatter continued, "in this way. Up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle." Here the Dormouse shook itself and began singing in its sleep. Twinkle, 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 twinkle. We're going to wait for that shit to pass. Because, of course, there's always got to be a helicopter coming above my head. But they're doing their job. I mean, I do live in a city. Is it going away? It's going. It's going. It's going. All right. Here the dormouse shook itself and began singing in its sleep. Twinkle, 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 twinkle. And went on so long that they had to pinch it to make it stop. Well, I'd hardly finished the first verse, said the Hatter, when the Queen jumped up and bawled out, "He's murdering the time! Off with his head!" "How dreadfully savage!" exclaimed Alice. And ever since that, the Hatter went on in a mournful tone. "He won't do a thing I ask. It's always 6 o'clock now." A bright idea came into Alice's head. "Is that the reason so many tea things are put out here?" she asked. "Yes, that's it," said the Hatter with a sigh. "It's always tea time, and we've no time to wash the things between whiles." "Then you keep moving round, I suppose," said Alice. "Exactly so," said the Hatter, "as the things get used up." "But what happens when you come to the beginning again?" Alice ventured to ask. "Suppose we change the subject," the March Hare interrupted, yawning. "I'm getting tired of this. I vote the young lady tells us a story." "I'm afraid I don't know one," said Alice, rather alarmed at the proposal. "Then the Dormouse shall," they both cried. "Wake up, Dormouse!" And they pinched it on both sides at once. Oh my God, they are so rude to this Dormouse. The poor little mouse is just sleeping there doing nothing. And they've poured tea on his nose. They've kind of verbally abused him. And at this point, they're definitely emotionally abusing this poor Dormouse. Like, I definitely want to call, I don't know, like is it the ASPCA because the abuse of this poor little mouse? How rude. If I were the Dormouse, I'd be like, screw you two. I'm having my own damn tea party on my own damn time. But I guess the Dormouse is, once we said, like a doormat. The Dormouse slowly opened his eyes. "I wasn't asleep," he said in a hoarse, feeble voice. "I heard every word you fellas were saying." "Tell us a story," said the March Hare. "Yes, please do," said Alice. "And be quick about it," added the Hatter, "or you'll be asleep again before it's done." Oh, let's do a quick picture. Oh, there's Alice, the little Dormouse, and the Mad Hatter. Okay. Once upon a time, there were 3 little sisters. The Dormouse began in a great hurry, and their names were Elsie, Lacey, and Tilly, and they lived at the bottom of a well. "What did they live on?" said Alice, who always took a great interest in questions of eating and drinking. "I wonder why, because she's always eating and drinking everything wherever she frickin' goes. She grows, she goes small, she's eating cake, she's drinking bottled water, whatever the hell she's drinking. Nosy little bitch." Well, okay. But I guess she's kind of like an investigative journalist right now. "They lived on treacle," said the Dormouse after thinking a minute or two. Okay, so treacle, which is Treacle. I looked it up. Treacle is some sort of syrupy stuff like a molasses. Treacle? Ugh. Anyway, we'll pass on that. "They couldn't have done that, Alice gently remarked. "They'd have been ill." "So they were," said the Dormouse. "Very ill." Alice tried to fancy to herself what such an extraordinary way of living would be like, but it puzzled her too much, so she went on, "But why did they live at the bottom of a well?" "Take some more tea," the March Hare said to Alice very earnestly. "I've had nothing yet," Alice replied in an offended tone, "so I can't take more." "You mean you can't take less," said the Hatter. "It's very easy to take more than nothing." "Nobody asked your opinion," said Alice. Oh my God, I gotta tell you, these people with their banter, they're actually really funny. And even though the Hatter is mad, is he mad? Because he's bringing up things that I think are kind of interesting, like time. Hello, he said he talked to time and he changed time. And it's like, the thing about time is, it really isn't real. It's a construct of the human mind. But we won't go there right now about that. But in the other note, it's kind of interesting how they're all like questioning her. And that's the theme here. All of these little people and animals keep posing things to Alice that seem illogical, but they're not illogical, right? Right. That's all I'm saying, because you can always have more of nothing, right? Or less. Okay, whatever. Here we go. Okay. "Who's making personal remarks now?" the Hatter asked triumphantly. Alice did not quite know what to say to this, so she helped herself to some tea and bread and butter, and then turned to the Dormouse and repeated her question. "Why did they live at the bottom of the well?" The Dormouse again took a moment or two to think about it, and then said it was a treacle well. There's no such thing, Alice was beginning very angrily, but the Hatter and the March Hare went shh, shh, and the Dormouse sulkily remarked, if you can't be civil, you'd better finish the story for yourself. Oh, no, please go on, Alice said. I won't interrupt again. I dare say there may be one. One indeed, said the Dormouse indignantly. However, he consented to go on. And so these three little sisters, they were learning to draw, you know. What did they draw? Said Alice, quite forgetting her promise. Bitch, stop asking the questions. The Dormouse has already been abused for years, probably by the March Hare and the Mad Hatter, and now you keep interrupting his damn boring story. I mean, at this point, we know the story's gonna suck, but the Dormouse is doing the best he can. It's not his fault. He was just told on the spot to make a story. You know what? She's breaking promises and she's getting on my nerves, but you know what? She's not mentioning Dinah, and that as long as that brings me joy, because we haven't heard about Dinah, right? Thank God. Let's not hear about Dinah and how much she misses Dinah. Oh, Gewalt. Anyway. Oh, Gewalt. Treacle, said the Dormouse without considering at all this time. I want to clean up, interrupted the Hatter. Let's all move one place on. He moved on as he spoke, and the Dormouse followed him. The March Hare moved into the Dormouse's place, and Alice rather unwillingly took the place of the March Hare. The Hatter was the only one who got any advantage from the change, and Alice was a good deal worse off, as the March Hare had just upset the milk jug into his plate. Alice did not wish to offend the Dormouse again, so she began very cautiously. But I don't understand. Where did they draw the treacle from? Oh my God. She is done. Like, honestly, it's like, shut up, Alice. You know, I get it. You know, the curiosity in this girl is good, but she doesn't know, like, at this point, she doesn't know to lay off. That poor Dormouse. I really want to rescue the little Dormouse. I really, 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 really feel badly for him. Okay. You can draw water out of a water well, said the Hatter. So I should think you could draw a treacle out of a treacle well. Eh, stupid? But they were in the well, Alice said to the Dormouse, not choosing to notice this last remark. Of course they were, said the Dormouse. Well, in. This answer so confused poor Alice that she let the Dormouse go on for some time without interrupting it. They were learning to draw, the Dormouse went on, yawning and rubbing its eyes, for it was getting very sleepy, and they drew all manner of things, everything that begins with an M. Why with an M? Said Alice. Why not? Said the March Hare. Alice was silent. Thank God, Alice. Put a frickin' cork in it. Eat some of the bread and butter, drink some tea, and friggin' listen to the friggin' story. And how come there's not any jam or jelly or any orange marmalade at this tea party? I've been to English tea. Like, you know what I mean? There's the scones, there's the fresh cream, there are your assortments of jellies or jams and orange marmalade. So I don't understand this. They're not very good at hosting a tea party. Not at all. Off with their heads. And we haven't gotten there yet, but we will. Hello. The Dormouse had closed its eyes by this time and was going off into a doze. But on being pinched by the Hatter, it woke up again and with a little shriek and went on. That begins with an M, such as mousetraps and the moon and memory. Memory, all alone in the moonlight. There's two M's right there. And muchness. You know, you say things are much of a muchness. Did you ever see such a thing as a drawing of a muchness? Really, now you ask me, said Alice, very much confused. I don't think. Then you shouldn't talk, said the Hatter. This piece of rudeness was more than Alice could bear. She got up in a great disgust and walked off. The Dormouse fell asleep instantly, and neither of the others took the least notice of her going, though she looked back once or twice, half hoping they would call after her. The last time she saw them, they were trying to put the Dormouse into the teapot. At any rate, I'll never go there again, said Alice as she picked her way through the wood. It's the stupidest tea party I ever was at in all my life. I said that, right? It's just a terrible tea party. They're not very good hosts. And the Dormouse, very concerned about the narcolepsy. But no one seems to care, the poor Dormouse. I mean, I guess the Dormouse doesn't care. He's living his life. He just sleeps at tea. All right. Just as she said this, she noticed that one of the trees had a door leading right into it. That's very curious, she thought. But everything's curious today. I think I may as well go in at once. And she went in. Once more, she found herself in the long hall and close to the little glass table. Now, I'll manage better this time, she said to herself, and began by taking the little golden key and unlocking the door that led into, dun dun dun, the garden. Then she set to work nibbling at the mushroom. She had kept a piece of it in her pocket till she was about a foot high. Then she walked down the little passage, and then she found herself at last in the beautiful garden among the bright flower beds and the cool fountains. She got there. Oh my God, Alice really did it. She's in the garden. What has she been belly aching for? What has this whole adventure been about? The freaking garden, my friends. Alice is there. We're right going into chapter 8 and she's entering the garden. So I just want to say this. Good for you, dear Alice, sweet Alice, staying the course, putting up with all this nonsense and crazy ass people and getting to your goal, which is the garden. Now, the question is this, all this is like, will the garden be something that she is going to be utterly like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, or is it going to be disastrous? Because I ask you, ever have something where it's like, careful what you wish for, you might just get it? I'm like wondering, it's like, be careful what you wish for, you might just get it, you know what I'm saying? Like, we put all this like anticipation on an event or something, and then we go to it and we're like, man, that sucked. So I hope for Alice's sake, it doesn't suck. But I have a feeling, obviously, this book is a classic, that it's going to be like something that exceeded her expectations. But then again, Alice just doesn't know what to expect. And that's the case here. You know what? That's what I want to talk about. A little bit about expectations and about going out for the things that you want to. So now, everybody, let's get into a little bit of the whoa. I don't know if you're journaling, you're not journaling, you don't have to be, but food for thought. Just in life, we have expectations of people, places, things, and the things that we're going to accomplish. And if only I do this, and if only I get this, and if only I'm friendly with this, and I only date this, I will have this, I will be this, I will be happy, I will be safe, secure, and all that. And that's all a facade, my friends. Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying you shouldn't have expectations for the greater good in your life, but expectations of people and places and things and all these things. And then when you show up, you have all these false preconceived notions. And then when it doesn't live up to that, you are more disappointed than not. So I think what Alice can teach us in this moment, besides the fact staying true to your goal and also getting deterred from what she had to do, because I mean, literally, she's just going along and, you know, just living in the moment, which is very important to live in the present. But also, she doesn't have any expectations. Her goal is to get into the garden. She doesn't know why, but she knows she wants to find the white rabbit, right? That was the whole thing. She's following the white rabbit down the hole. And her goal is to see the white rabbit again and get into this garden. Now, what I also find interesting is this. Because she wasn't focusing on that and she was at the tea party and she decided once she realized the tea party was just a bust, that she's wandering through the wood and without looking and really like searching for it, she comes upon a tree with the door to the garden, right? So she's forgotten about how she's going to get into the garden. She just knows that's the end goal, but she's going along, following the path, making some decisions, navigating, adapting to her situations, adapting to like the people that are around her, the crazy nutballs that are around her, and then plop. She just allows herself to be in the present and just be there now. And guess what? Boom, the doorway to the garden is there. So I kind of think it's interesting that we could use this kind of to our own lives, knowing that, of course, we all have goals and visions. And I do believe, we've discussed this before, they change over the course of our lives because we grow and we change. But I think it's important while you're going for your goals, once again, to be open to possibilities and things that are not in your control, because things are going to divert your attention and take you somewhere else, and you don't know how pleasant or unpleasant it's going to be, but you're going to grow from it. And I do think that Alice is going on this adventure to help her grow. And I think that's what life is for us. That's an adventure. And it's your opportunity to see life as an adventure. And I think that's what's important about Alice, that she's a child. If you can look at your life as an adventure through the eyes of child-like eyes, meaning that everything is new, and maybe not having those preconceived notions and having those adult things that can prohibit you from actually being in the moment and being present and enjoying where you are right now, then you really could have the life you desire. So it's time, I think, that you just start envisioning the life that you like, but also releasing any expectations or attachments to it, and just be grateful for where you are. Go along and just enjoy where you are right now. So with that being said, my friends, I'm going to encourage you to think about things in your life that you felt that maybe when you didn't prepare for it and it turned out splendidly, it was a great time. Or how maybe you're staying so focused on a goal that you're not enjoying other things that are coming up that are probably going to be for your betterment. Because I think anything you experience, if you experience it with an open heart and mind, it will always help you if you choose to allow it to help you. So think about the things, and also just daydream a little bit. Daydream if you went down a rabbit hole. What are the kind of people you would meet? Because I don't think we use our imagination as much as we should. That's the beautiful thing about books, right? They teach us how to use our imagination. So just like reading a book, maybe, while you're journaling, or if you're not journaling, just lay there and daydream a little bit about, I don't know, how things may unfold for you or not, or just a certain situation in life, or just daydream, because you know what? It's just nice to escape the reality of life sometimes. So, my friends, I'm hoping you have a fabulous day. Thank you for joining me again. And I look forward to seeing you on the next chapter. All right. Bye. Bye. Au revoir. Arrivederci. That's Italian. Ci vediamo. I think I've spoken a little Italian to you before. Fun fact about me, I was born in Hoboken, New Jersey. That's the birthplace of Frank Sinatra. A lot of Italian Americans were born in Hoboken, New Jersey. That's where my parents met, in Hoboken. I'm giving a lot of fun facts. Yeah. All right, to be continued. Bye.